Hello! Good to be back here. Let me just position myself. Hopefully you guys can hear me alright. I hope everyone is having a happy new year. And I apologize if there's any technical issues. Certainly I was having a lot more earlier this evening. It looks like it's still saying that there's drop frames. So I'm recording this. And so if it's a little bit sketchy, I'm sorry. I apologize. It'll be uploaded to YouTube though. So on YouTube, it should be fine because it's being recorded here on OBS. I hope everyone, like I mentioned, is having a great new year. I'm so excited to be here, and I was very disappointed when I was starting to stream, and I immediately realized that it wasn't letting me. And then I found out it was partly because my dad was uploading a 4K sized video, and so that's great. That's awesome. Thank you, Dad, for doing that. That definitely helps me. I only stream, 1 day a week, pretty much on average, and I only stream for 3+ hours, bound three as like the upper bound usually, and so it had to be this time in this particular part of the day, and on this day of the week to upload your 4K video. Yeah, okay. I think I stream on this day too. So I'm a little bit upset, but I'll try to, be charitable here. I really appreciate the lemons, guys. Thank you, King Roy. Thank you, Yikes Department. I did talk to my dad. I told him that because of issues like this, we need to upgrade our internet. He said he'd look into it. So he said he's gonna do that. I think I have enough money to upgrade it. So I don't think it's an issue about money. There's just an issue about whether or not we're going to take the initiative to do it. And by we, I mean my father. I don't own the home, so I can't do much about that. If things progressively stay this bad, I might move out just so I can stream again and I don't have to worry about this ever again. But we'll see. It's expensive to move out, and I don't pay very much to my parents for rent. So, but I do like streaming, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully things will get better and will not continue like this. In any case, I hope everyone also, and probably more importantly than the new year, had a happy feast of the Mary, the Mother of God. Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God is today. It's a holy day of obligation, so I hope you either watched Mass or attended one IRL. And I hope you had a blessed day, a very holy day, able to either have some penance or to fast, because it is a Friday as well. For me, I did my penance was from the Discord game that was set up by our Discord master. What's his name? Solar, I think. I keep forgetting his name, but doesn't matter. But he set up this Discord game about waifus. And you get to try to roll. It's like almost like a roulette game or a lottery game. And every hour you get to roll 10 different waifus at random. And keep in mind there's 200,000 different selections. And you're trying to look for the one that you want. And it's very competitive. It's very addictive. So I took a break from that today. I was not trying to catch them all, so to speak. Yeah, so that is another thing I wanted to address before I talk a little bit about today being the Solemnity of Mary, the Mother of God. I did want to just say quickly, I've seen people were saying that 2021, yes, is going to be the year of the Groiper. They're presumptively saying that, which would be awesome. That'd be cool to see. I hear some wingnats saying it's going to be the year of the Wignat again, which is funny because I think they say that every year after Charlottesville. And it's like the Boston, it's like the Chicago Cubs. That's the team I'm thinking of. The way they hold the sign that says, "There's always next year," because they're a failure, like the Chicago Cubs usually is. And then I saw as well some people saying it's the year of Satan because Joe Biden is going to be president most likely. So I saw that one, which is kind of blackpilling. But in any case, What we do know is it's no longer the year of Baked Alaska. The year of Baked Alaska is over, so we can celebrate. Finally, I don't have to hear people shouting Yoba into my ear. It's over, guys. We did it. We made it to the end of the year of Baked Alaska. No surprise, it was one of the worst years of modern history. Now, that's a joke. That's a joke. We don't depreciate Baked Alaska here, but it seemed to me as if it'd be a funny joke if I did say that. Indeed, remark upon, I was thinking about it, I did remark upon the fact that it is the end of the year of Baked Alaska, so I don't know, we'll see what happens next with that guy. Hopefully not more jail time. But I'm not trying to ankle bite at the guy. He seems like to be a genuinely good person. I know he's Nick's friend, so please don't interpret this as me trying to disavow him or anything like that. Just trying to have some lighthearted humor here, guys. But yeah, I got the sweater vest. And so, excuse me. So yeah, it would be cool if 2021 was the year of the sweater vest. I think that, if we had 2021 being the year of the optics, your professionalism, I think that'd be a good thing, a good resolution for our movement to have, is to try to be more optical and less like the alt-right. Tonight we had a little bit of an incident in the Discord, which I hope everyone joins the Discord. It's good to see Yikes Department, by the way, and all of you guys. I forgot to mention that in the beginning. It's so good to see so many people here. Yeah, despite my terrible internet connection. In any case, I saw a Solingrad. I think I'm saying that right, like the Black Sun. And I know where they come from. I know what it means about the circle of time and the repeated phases in history. The Golden Age, the Kali Yuga, all of those esoteric expressions. I understand where like the Black Sun comes from, what it means, and why people use it. However, it's very closely associated with the alt-right movement in 2016. You saw a lot at Charlottesville, and so a lot of the upper Groyper generals, the Groyper leaders, they don't want us using it. So I don't really want to see that in chat, guys. I think we need to really have pristine optics this year. I think that should be our goal, is just to have the most pristine optics, to try to be most mainstream as we possibly can, without, of course, sacrificing on principle or ideology, and of course, especially not anything related to God or anything of that sort. But if there's something that is unnecessary and we know could hurt the movement, push people away who might be otherwise interested in this, we should just be, mindful of that. Mindful that as we expand, there's going to always be those people on the fringes that are going to be like interested in what we have to say, and we don't want to push them away, at least not in the beginning. Maybe, or in the beginning you don't want to push them away, then once they kind of get comfortable, then you can start trying to drop more serious red pills about world jewelry or something of that sort, or the pedophile cabal, something like that. Whereas you don't want to start off with talking about the JQ. You want to start talking off about Israel or foreign influence in American procedures, and there's the spying that Israel does on us. Very kind of the tip of the iceberg things that kind of like introduce people into the world of America first. So that is the goal this time around. Darken says, anyone else been feeling it lag in recent streams? Yes, I know there is going to be a lot of lag. I don't know why. I think it has something to do with either the holiday season or I don't know. But my father is upgrading the internet. He is upgrading it as well. I told him to, because he was trying to download a 4K video. As I mentioned earlier, he tried to download a 4K video right as I was going live. Just so great. You love to see it. You love to see it from your own father. One day you stream, right? But I apologize. The video will be uploaded to YouTube. I am recording it. It will look fine on YouTube, so please watch it on YouTube if you can't tonight. I won't feel offended if you stop watching the stream because of lag. I just want to say that right now. Now let me transition here to talking a little bit about the Theotokos and the Mary, the Mother of God. It is the solemnity of that feast day. And also, as well, I'm going to finish up our talk on the problem of evil. If the internet gets better, maybe I'll talk about some more stuff from the Catechism, the Baltimore Catechism, We were going through the Catechism of the Council of Trent, but unfortunately it was a little bit too heavy for some of our audience. I noticed people falling asleep, or they didn't seem very interested. Hypothetically, but metaphorically, they're falling asleep, and based on what I was seeing in chat, a lot of distracted ADHD listeners. So I'm gonna do the Baltimore Catechism, and if we have time, we're talking about grace. But otherwise, we're just gonna stick to talking a tiny bit about the Theotokos, and then talking about, again, finishing up our segment on the problem of evil. And I want to have more visuals. And moving forward, I'm going to try to do that. I think that makes things more interactive. I think there's a lot of visual learners out there. So tonight, I have a bowl full of rocks, and I'm going to eat them. No, it's a joke. I'm not going to eat the rocks. The eating part's the joke. I do have a bowl full of rocks, though, and I'll explain how that's relevant and what is the importance of that. But in any case, I'm going to start off by lighting the candles right behind me. I wasn't sure if my stream would ever work, so I blew them out so as to not let the candles extinguish themselves. So let me go relight those real quickly, and then we'll start off with a prayer. I think it's very important to start with prayer on a holy night like this. So just give me a second here, light my candles. Let me try again. Get another match here. Give me a second. Alright, you can see the real candles too now. It's confirmed. They are real candles, so candles are lit. So, I don't need this. I don't know why I put that on. So let me just start off by praying the Hail Holy Queen. You can join me if you know the words. Pretty common prayer in Catholicism, so join me if you know the words here. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Ghost. Amen. Hail, Holy Queen, Mother of Mercy, our life, our sweetness, and our hope. To thee do we cry, poor banished children of Eve. To thee do we send up our sighs, mourning and weeping in this valley of tears. Turn then, most gracious Advocate, thine eyes of mercy towards us, and after this our exile, show unto us the blessed fruit of thy womb, Jesus. O clement, O loving, O sweet Virgin Mary, pray for us, O Holy Mother of God, that we may be made worthy of the promises of Christ. Amen. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. And I think that's a beautiful prayer, and I think the Latin version is even more beautiful, particularly when it is sung, and I'll play it at the end of tonight. I'll play that song, Salve Regina. It is a beautiful song, and I love it when it's played at the end of the High Mass. Now, the day, the feast of the Mother of God, and established in the Catholic Church to remind us of the participation of Mary within the Christmas narrative. We are still in the Christmas season, and as the weeks go on, we progress generally chronologically from Jesus' baptism to his, rather circumcision and his baptism, and in the Epiphany when the wise men visit him. And so today we remember kind of the role of Mary throughout this whole process, and it was very important that Mary was called the Mother of God. And that's what basically this feast is kind of to remind us of. And I already talked about Mary's sinlessness in a last video about the Immaculate Conception. And then I will talk about her coronation and her perpetual virginity in other videos, probably in the near future. But tonight I just want to reflect on her title, Mary the Mother of God. And this title was chosen at the Council of Ephesus and Chalcedon. That was kind of when it was confirmed, and it was in basically response to the Nestorianism heresy. Made sure I got the word correct there. Nestorianism heresy, and basically what the Nestorian heresy said was that Jesus has there's two persons within Christ. There's a human person, and then there's the divine person, and that seems to conflict with our understanding of the Trinity, when there's three individual persons, and the part of the Godhead, which is the incarnate Logos, can only be one person, and that person would have to be divine. And so that's why it's very important for them to say that Mary was the Mother of God, because it said explicitly that Jesus is God. In fact, Theotokos is probably better and more accurately translated to Mary, the mother of the incarnate God. And the word in Greek is very difficult to translate, interestingly enough. In any case, it was in response to these heresies that they wanted to give Mary this this honorific title. And basically what we know today, as subsequent councils have confirmed, is that Jesus is not, in fact, he is not two persons. There isn't a human person and a divine person. He's only one person. He's the divine person, part of the Godhead, like I mentioned, part of the Trinity, but he rather has two natures, or two, you could say, aspects, or two characteristics. He has the human characteristics, which is his existence in space, time, his self-consciousness, the way he his rationality, the elements that you would consider ephemeral or temporary. And then he also has, of course, the divine nature. He is a necessary being. He is perfect, he is holy, all-powerful, all-knowing, etc. So that is the hypostatic union. That is the theological term, the theological expression that is given to describe the union between the attributes from God and the attributes of Mary, who form the essence of Christ. The two attributes come together, the two natures come together in this perfect union, and they form the essence of Christ, though Christ is yet but one person. So that's a very important theological distinction there. Oh, people are asking for the Discord link. Yeah, I got you guys. I need to get some other people the Discord link, so I'm not the only one who has to hand this out here. Let me hand that out. But so that is basically the history behind the expression Mary, the Mother of God, or Theotokos. And today is the day that we remember that in the Holy Catholic Church. And it's very important, I think, to remember and to reflect on these days about Mary's participation in the salvation process, not only because it points back to Jesus in this case, because she was his mother, or to even the theological significance of it, but also Mary represents in a certain way the Ark of the Covenant, like I mentioned last time. And the Ark of the Covenant in the Old Testament was always carried with them into battle, and it symbolized, because God dwelt therein, it symbolized that God was with the people of Israel. And when they lost the Ark of the Covenant, when the people of Israel entered into sin, and they were and there was the Babylonian captivity, and that's basically the starting point of the movie Raiders of the Lost Ark. They're looking for the Ark of the Covenant, this lost artifact. This was a big deal to the Jews, because it meant basically that God's blessing was no longer with them. God was not going to be with them the same way that they had been in the past in the Ark of the Covenant. And so if Mary is the new Ark of the Covenant, then we should view her in a very similar fashion, that she represents and manifests that God is with us. And that even if we go to battle against the forces of evil, particularly in this upcoming year, in 2021, as we enter into this year with a uncertain election, but most likely it seems to probably be Joe Biden, unfortunately, as we know that there will probably be persecution of the church, we have to take solace in knowing that that God is on our side, and that Mary is with us. She is our mother. And there's a great verse in Revelation. I'm not going to read it tonight. I'll probably read it when we talk about the coronation Mary, but it describes her with a crown, and it describes her with the child, and it says that this dragon is trying to attack the Virgin Mary. And basically that's kind of represents evil and Satan, and Mary flees into the wilderness for a number of years. And then the angel Gabriel goes to war against Satan, and it's very dramatic scene in the Bible. It's a great scene to read if you have the time. I definitely will in subsequent videos, later videos. In any case, though, I think it does remind us, like I said, that Mary is with us, and just as the Israelites brought the Ark of the Covenant with them into battle, and it reminded them that God was with them, so too does Mary remind us of that very same thing today. So I thank you, by the way, for the follow. Welcome, guys. Whoa! 78 viewers. This is huge. It sucks because my internet is not doing well, so I don't know why people are watching. So many people are watching tonight, but I welcome everyone. Let me get the Discord link for you guys. Wooza must have shouted me out here, so I appreciate it. Oh, he must be hosting me. That's it. Oh, I appreciate that, Wooza. I'm sorry I did not see that. I really do appreciate it, though. Let me get the Discord link for everybody. We need to get more people in the Discord. So let me find that here. Here we go. Here it is. Just copy and paste that over, and then we will transition to the main part of my spiel tonight, talking about, like I said, the problem of evil. It looks like there's still some connection issues. It's still saying there's drop frames. So like I said, I apologize for the problems. I'm sorry, guys. But they will be uploaded to YouTube as soon as I finish. So take solace in that. Take comfort knowing that it'll be up on YouTube. So like I mentioned in, what was it? Was it 2 streams ago? I believe it was 2 streams ago, we were talking about the problem of evil, which is, I think, something that Christians, we are confronted with all the time, and is probably one of the longest philosophical like arguments against the existence of God. Of course, you know, we have proofs of the existence of God, and people argue against the proofs, but the only positive argument, really the only strong positive argument against the existence of God would have to be the problem of evil. It has a lot of longevity. You see it in Epicurus. You see it with David Hume, Graham Oppie, or what's his name? Yeah, he also has been like working on some modern formulations. I believe he's like one of the leading contemporary atheists. So it's something that, you know, we need to think about as Christians and have some response to, and some like kind of basis for why we can still have a strong hope that God is real and that he is still good. And the 2 starting premises that we started with last time is that, 1, God has no moral obligations. Because, of course, like we said last time, the moral law is something that is above us. We are subordinate to it. God is subordinate to nothing. But that doesn't mean to say that that God can do whatever he wants, that his will is arbitrary. Well, as we know, God is immutable. His volition, his will is timeless, and so his will is perfectly in sync with his knowledge of his own goodness. As well as God doesn't have any natural inclinations, so there would be no need to orient God's actions the same way we have to, in conformity with other rational beings. That's kind of defines what our duties are and mean to us. And then the other very important thing that you have to remember is that there is an element of this which is going to be called like the mystery of faith. Ultimately, we are not going to have the big picture. We'll never have the bird's eye view. We'll never have perfect comprehension, perfect intelligibility. We'll never be able to see all the nexus of connections. We'll never be able to see if just saying hi to someone one time saved them from committing suicide because they're depressed one day, which I've heard stories of, by the way. So you never know how one tiny little action can affect so many different people. And so we'll never be able to see that because we are not omnipotent, but God is. And so that is why it is part of the mystery of faith. And it's important when we talk about faith, as I mentioned the last time, it's not that saying that there is, we are suspending reason. It's not saying that we're suspending rationality. Rather, faith is this profound trust, is profound like a fidelity that comes from a fide. It's a loyalty to God that we trust from sort of metaphysical principles. We know that God is real, and so we can trust that when God says that he is good, he is in fact good, and that he has the best interest for our lives. And that is what we mean by faith. And then last time we talked a little bit about God's justice and mercy. You can go back and watch the episode on that. And another big thing we talked about was how God does not cause evil. He permits it because evil is a privation. And we went into some of the metaphysical principles that are at play there about what it means for there to be a privation. So that's kind of like the wrap up of the last time. That's what we talked about in the previous episode. And so tonight we're going to be continuing along those lines. And one of the things that we kind of arrived at was this notion that God would try to bring out some greater good. And this is something that St. Augustine kind of first stated, that God is so powerful that he can make bad things into, it can bring out good from bad things. And so there's different interpretations. There's different interpretations of what that means. Thomas Aquinas has his own way of interpreting this. Kant had his own way, and Leibniz had his own way of interpreting this. And so I'll go through all three of those, kind of talk about each one, which parts I like about each one of them, which parts I'm not like as big of a fan of, and I'll let you guys kind of decide which kind of theory or model, and maybe multiple, that you like for yourself. I hope it's working a little better, guys. So yeah, some people are saying that they'll catch the replay. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys. I apologize, but we will be on YouTube, so definitely be ready for that. Be ready for the YouTube upload. I apologize for tonight's stream. Hopefully this never happens again. I'll definitely do my best to upgrade my internet and whatnot. Yeah, Nestorianism was literally the world's first blue pill take. Very true, Nesuno. Alright, so the first kind of, I guess you could say, the model or theory to explain how God can bring out some greater good from this very evil world. We see a lot of gratuitous evil, a lot of unnecessary evil, whether that be natural or moral, is a Leibniz conception. And Leibniz basically wrote, and I believe it's in the origination of things, on the origination of things, I believe is the essay. Leibniz basically wrote that this is the best out of a set of possible worlds. God, who has, of course, what he describes as natural knowledge, knows about every single possible world that ever could exist, and different possibilities, whether that be logical possibilities or metaphysical possibilities. Leibniz basically doesn't specify, but God in his infinite knowledge knows exactly the infinite number of possible worlds, and according to Leibniz, he picks the world that he believes is going to be the best possible world. And it is of the nature of essences, according to Leibniz, this is kind of part of his philosophy, that they strive to be the best possible. That's how he defends this concept. So that's how it's kind of like his starting point. He thinks that this is going to be the best possible world. And his defense of this concept is his belief about essences, or what he later calls monads. He believes that all things strive to be as most perfect as they possibly can be. That is why Leibniz believes that there is something rather than nothing, and that matter doesn't just suddenly disappear out of existence, because there's this existential inertia that objects have that is just imbued in them, that they strive to keep existing, because according to Leibniz and according to many philosophers, existence is part of being a perfection. It is a positive predicate. If something fails to exist, then it's considered a negative predicate. And so existence, if something has an existence as some reality, that's considered, a good thing. It's a precondition for any other form of actual goodness. It has to exist. So that is kind of where Leibniz is coming from there. And so if the essences strive to exist in the same kind of manner, they're also going to strive to exist in the best possible way they can. And so he believes that there's what's called this compossibility. That's the word he uses, it. Compossibility of substances. And basically what his idea is that substances going to arrange themselves throughout history and throughout time in a way that is going to be the most rational, and it's going to be the most perfect. And any other arrangement of substances as are scattered throughout space and time would be imperfect. It would imply some imperfection. And so the same way that there may be a logical fallacy or a logical contradiction in a very analytic statement, and so if you're trying to figure out, okay, why is this proposition true? In logic, you would say, well, its negation is it implies some contradiction. And one of the rules of logic is the principle of non-contradiction. Leibniz says the reason why that the objects and experiences of the universe arrange themselves the way they do is because if they had arranged themselves any differently, there would be some imperfection. And so God, who is all good, is going to imbue that goodness into other things. And so they're going to align up in the most rational way possible. And so we don't see, a Ferrari just appear magically in the 1600s, because that wouldn't become possible. That wouldn't be rational. That'd be unexplainable, unintelligible. And so Leibniz thinks that something like that would have to be impossible, because it would not conform to his concept of moral goodness, his concept of goodness here. And the way he kind of thinks about this is in a very mathematical way. And Leibniz, as you know, was one of the people who helped to develop calculus along with Sir Isaac Newton. And so he saw God as this grand mathematician, this divine mathematician who's used the universe as like this optimization problem. And he was trying to maximize the moral goodness. Anyone who's taken calculus knows that's basically the point of looking at differential equations, is you're trying to find either the maximum point or the minimum point of a given curve. And so for Leibniz, he sees God as doing that to try to find the maximum point of moral goodness. And the way he kind of looks at it is it's like a bucket here. And I have this, it's not a bucket, but it's like a what is this? A bowl. It's a bowl. It's a glass bowl here. This is my prop for tonight, is this glass bowl. Like I mentioned earlier in the show, I'm going to be using prompts. I'm going to try to use them more often so that people can better follow along and are more engaged with what I'm saying, because a lot of these concepts are very abstract, so I understand why people would be lost. But here's the bowl we have here. And then let's say that we only have large rocks, okay? So we have a bowl, we only use large rocks. And let's say that the more reality, like Leibniz thought, the better something was more perfect is. So a larger rock is more perfect than a smaller rock. So we have only large rocks here. I gotta make sure you guys see this. And so while they fit pretty well, you can see, there's cracks. There's a crack there. I gotta be real careful. I don't need the rocks. These are heavy rocks. I got them out in my garden area. My parents didn't even notice. So there's like a space there, some spaces there, some spaces there. And so we see, there's these little gaps in them. And so then what you can do is take like smaller rocks and fill the gaps. These are these are the smallest rocks I had, but I think you kind of can picture in your mind even smaller rocks that'll fit into the gaps here. And so that you can fill this bowl as best as possible. That's kind of the goal, that's the objective, leaving the minimum amount of air pockets. And so you have these smaller rocks that are basically supporting larger rocks. These smaller, imperfect objects that are supporting more perfect ones. And so for Leibniz, imperfect events are basically propping up and supporting perfect events. That is his conception of the universe. That is kind of his, just a very general view of his metaphysical starting point. That's kind of where he's coming from here. And that's how he tries to solve the problem of evil, is this is the best of all possible worlds. And like I said, God is this trying to optimize moral goodness there. And Leibniz often points to this in a very naturalistic sense. And he believes it also applies to moral goodness, but he also believes it applies, and he talks more about this, and I believe on the origination of things, or maybe it was on freedom. I forget exactly which essay in particular, but I remember him talking about specifically about natural goodness, and kind of what he's getting at here is like a river. A river, it's going to forge this. It's going to follow the smoothest course. A river is going to follow the smoothest course to its path. That is the most, I guess, it optimizes the river's potential and follows the smoothest course to its path. Light, the way light hits a prism, it bends, it finds the smoothest course, and that's why it refracts. It's looking for that smoothest course. And so for Leibniz, these are all evidence that this is the best possible world, and that this is because of course in mathematics the less assumptions or the less I guess you could say, confounding variables, the better something is. So something finding its smoothest course to Leibniz, is a perfection. So those are kind of the some of the arguments Leibniz gives in support of his position. I'll just bring up one of the biblical kind of like arguments here. I'll show my screen so you guys can see what I'm looking at here. It's from the book of Job, and this is kind of, I'll say, one of the benefits of this is it does kind of correspond to some parts of the Bible of this model. Particularly, there's a lot of verses in Psalms. There's a great verse in Wisdom that literally says, like, God is this divine mathematician who measures the universe with a protractor. And it's a beautiful verse, but it's very difficult to find because most Protestants, after all, don't read the Book of Wisdom. And so it was going to take me too long to find it. So instead I found this verse. It's very similar. It comes from Job 38, 4-7. And it reads, "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Tell me if you have understanding. Who determined its measurements? Surely you know. Or who stretched the line upon it? On what were its bases sunk? Or who laid its cornerstone? When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy." And so it's talking about how God determined the measurements. He laid the foundations of the earth. And so he's like this divine craftsman. And the craftsman is probably going to make, of course, the best possible object he can. Sorry, let me just... There we go. Alright, I wanted to make sure my camera was steady there. So that is kind of the... oh, thank you guys, by the way, for the follow. Thank you, Based Angloid. Very cool. Welcome, man. It's good to see you. Thank you, OK Tuna, for the ice cream, by the way. Really appreciate it, guys. Very generous. I apologize again. I'm sure you guys are far, far behind. I'm saying this now at 9:03. I'm sure you guys are far behind me because of the internet delay. But I apologize again for the issues, the technical problems we've been having tonight. There's nothing I can do about it. And I'm working on upgrading my internet because that is something I can do in the meantime. So it's in the works. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, pray that we won't have this problem in the future. All right. So that is kind of Leibniz's solution there. Now, one of the issues of Leibniz's solution, certainly that I have, certainly is one that Kant brought up, and Graham Oppie, I think, brings this up as well, is that this obviously isn't, the best of all possible worlds, because heaven is a more perfect world. In heaven, you have free will still. In heaven, and because that was one of the arguments that's kind of more contemporarily used, is is about the argument that it's better for us to have free will, and so free will to some extent exists in heaven, and individual autonomy probably rather would be a more accurate way to put it, as to say people are living upstanding lives, and so heaven is this more perfect world. And so it seems that, if this is going to be the best possible world, then it wouldn't be the world we got. We'd just be we'll still be living in the Garden of Eden. Because God could certainly have prevented Eve from eating the tree from the knowledge of good and evil, to get into the theological aspect of it. But in general, God, he has dominion over everything. And so why did he choose to still allow people to have free will? Why did he still allow Eve to eat the tree of the Garden of the Garden from Eden? Why did he allow Eve to eat the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in the Garden of Eden? There we go. These questions are not very easily answered in kind of Leibniz's framework. I'm not satisfied with them, at least, especially given the fact that we believe in heaven, and heaven is a better possible world. So I don't really take that approach. I think that on net, there is more goodness. That is kind of the argument we're making here, that on net, there's more goodness than evil, that everything bad can be resolved into something good. And what that goodness is, though, is going to be not, I don't think, a metaphysical goodness. That's just what Leibniz argued. I think it's going to be something else. I think it's going to be a goodness that is going to compel people to become Christians or goodness that will compel people to believe in God. Sorry. Alright. I had to get a slurp check there. I need to be like Nick, have like the bubbly open. So I can get some sugar. But basically now I'm going to go into Kant's position here. And Kant, and as you might have guessed, I'm kind of more sympathetic with what Kant says here. And now I have to kind of give some background to Kant's philosophy like I did with Leibniz. And I apologize for all the, a lot of the convoluting terms we're using tonight. But that's kind of just how you have to explain philosophy. You have to know some jargon, some theory. And so Kant believed basically one of the imperfections of the world, and the biggest imperfection rather, was the correspondence between morality and happiness. According to Kant, the summum bonum, which just means in Latin the highest good, it's when we are awarded with happiness for our good deeds. It's when virtue and happiness are aligned, they correlate perfectly with each other. You do bad deeds, you get punished. You do good deeds, you get rewarded. How do you get rewarded? Well, nature aligns with your will. Let's say I really want a car or something like that, but I do, and I do good deeds, then I'll be rewarded for my goodness with something like that. Nature will align, like I said, with our volition there. That's kind of how Kant saw happiness. And so the two are going to be connected. I think intuitively this just makes sense. That if you're going to do bad, there must be punishments for it, and to do good, there must be, a reward. That seems to me the essence of virtue. Otherwise, there's no teeth implicit in morality. There seems to be no reason to be a moral person over an immoral person, unless we have some belief that there will be some punishment to it, or a reward to it. Now, that shouldn't be the basis for why we're good, obviously. The basis for why we should be good is because it's the right thing to do. But there might be an auxiliary influencer, absolutely, is the fear of hell. And you see that in the act of contrition. I detest my sins not only because I dread the loss I have in the pains of hell, but also because blah, 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 blah. So that is still, part of the mindset that goes into repentance, is thinking about the punishments here. Now, on earth, we don't see that punishment. We don't see that reward. We don't see the summum bonum. I think this is obvious to us. There are good people that are going to live miserable lives, and there are bad people who get away with their evil doings. There are bad people who are rewarded for them, and people often ask, why do bad things happen to good people? Why is it the case that bad people are able to take control and to seize power and to live these luscious lifestyles? Why is this the case? And this makes us, of course, very upset. And Kant said that the only way that he could resolve this is if there was a presupposed afterlife in which we would be held accountable for our moral actions here on earth. Either a heaven or a hell, there must be some divine judgment, and there must exist God. This was basically summarized his proof from what he believed was, or what he called practical reason, pure practical reason for the existence of God. He believed that there was presupposed in certain moral considerations that there would have to be a God that would judge everyone at the end of time or after someone's life expired here on earth, that their rational self would continue on in the next life to be judged by God and to seek perfection, because that is the ultimate end of all humans, is perfection, and we'll never achieve that on earth. So Kant believed that there must be some afterlife to give us that opportunity. And that's kind of just a very rough overview. I can go into more detail maybe another show or something like that, because Kant's proof is actually very interesting. And while on the surface may seem superficial to some people, I think it's actually very convincing, for me at least, because I think that the proof from practical reason is going to be a little bit more grounded than some of the metaphysical proofs like Leibniz or Thomas Aquinas's, or like an ontological proof, because it necessitates that God has to exist practically in our lives, not just that he exists as some concept of the intellect, but that he exists as something that we take into consideration in our day-to-day action, specifically moral action. So for Kant, basically, the evils of the world are for some higher purpose. Namely, they reveal to us the necessary existence of God, and confirm rather his necessary existence in our lives, like I just mentioned, summarized there. And I think this does make sense to me. I think that this is a good kind of way to look at it, because I look across the world, and you see these great evils. You see just recently, right? The profligate woman in Argentina that were cheering when abortion was legalized. This predominantly Catholic country, this once great country that Pope Francis, came from. And for all your criticism of the Pope, he still stands by a pro-life message. And so, despite all of those influences, you still see massive amount of women in the street, these profligate whores cheering as infanticide is legalized. You see the pedophile cabal in Hollywood and in the media, and you see these like Jeffrey Epstein and Weinstein. Interesting, the last names there, but that's not really relevant to tonight's lesson. In any case, you see these great evils that are just being done, and people are getting away with it. And this makes, anyone, a reasonable character, sick to their stomach. It makes them upset. It gives them righteous indignation, and rightfully so. And now imagine if you were an atheist. What could you do? Nothing. You can't, you could try to say I'm going to Fed post or something like that. You're like, that's not going to do anything, really. That's not going to get you far. If you try to take action into your own hands, you can wish that the judicial system would do something about it, but it's unlikely that a lot of things are going to change anytime soon, given how many people are still asleep on a lot of these issues, given that how many NPCs there are out there who think that abortion is somehow a right. Given that information, given the liberalism of the West, the materialism of the West, it's really like if you're an atheist, you just have to say, well, I guess shit happens. That's literally all. You can just shrug your shoulders, and that's about all you can do. And I remember in particular, I don't usually watch Hassan Piker, but I did see one video he did. I think it was on Instagram, and it was about Jeffrey Epstein, and in it he was very upset that Jeffrey Epstein had killed himself. He was very upset that killed himself, right? And he's very upset that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself because he said, he got the easy way out. He didn't have to be brought to justice. He just got to take himself out. He didn't have to go through any sort of punishment or retribution. And I'm just I was watching this and I just smirk to myself and I think, no, he actually didn't. No, Jeffrey Epstein did not get the easy way out. And I have confidence that Jeffrey Epstein is not, doing so well. I have confidence that, I think of reasonable confidence that he's probably being punished eternally with fire and brimstone for his evil deeds. Because God is a wrathful God. He is also merciful, but he will punish those who do evil, wicked doers. And that, brings me some solace. And I think that, to me, kind of helps reinforce my belief in the existence of God. Honestly, I think I would probably, lose my mind. I would have gone insane if I didn't believe that there was some God who, at the end of time or at the end of someone's life, could rectify the injustices of the world. And I feel that, and you might ask, okay, well, why can't there just be no evil in the first place? And I was thinking about that myself. And I was thinking that if the world was just perpetually free of all evil, whether it be natural or moral, then you'd just feel there'd be, I think, no pressure to believe in God. I think we'd be very lax. I think we'd be very lax in our relationship with God. I think that we would not revere God as the divine judge as we ought to. And I think that it would be easy to take his role for granted. And I think that no fear of hell whatsoever, would cause this laxity. And I think that God, in his infinite wisdom, thought it would be better for us to have evil and to point us back to God than for us to be lax in our faith. And kind of it's kind of the corollary of the old Amish parable reads, "He who knows not bitter will not know sweet." And so kind of the corollary would also be that if you only know sweet, you'll never know what it's like to taste bitter. You have to have that juxtaposition in order to kind of reinforce the pain of the world, to reinforce God's judgments and God's existence. That juxtaposition is very important there. So that's kind of, and it has to be juxtaposed, by the way, I think on a personal and emotional level, which is what pain does for us. It affects us emotionally and spiritually. Whereas, if we just thought about the concept of people doing evil, well, yeah, that we might intellectually kind of grasp that, as I'm sure we can intellectually grasp a much more evil world. And so why isn't the world just maximally evil? I'm sure we can intellectually think about that. However, excuse me, let me get another glass of water. My lungs are like tightening up for some reason. But like I was saying, we can think about this in a very intellectual sense, some greater evil, but we'll never know that on a personal level. We'll never know at an emotional level what that actually means, which I think is very important. Thank you guys so much for the lemons, by the way. I'm surprised we have still people watching, frankly. Happy New Year's, guys. People saying, I don't do rational that well. Yeah, the rationalists are hard to understand, no worries. Real Senpai says, are you Jaden's twin brother? Yes, I am the esoteric Jaden, as some people like to say. The esoteric Jaden, because I'm interested in some esoteric things, some of the arcane realities that people don't like to talk about, some arcane subjects related to perennial traditionalism and other cultures. So yeah, stuff like Rene Guénon, metaphysics, a lot of those things. I'm a little bit of an expert there. Don't want to brag too much, though. Don't want to be too gregarious. But yes, I am the esoteric Jaden, as some people like to call me. So then the last and final solution I'm going to talk about tonight, and then I'll probably, let's see, how long have we been going for? Oh yeah, we've almost been going for an hour. And I'll end it here, because we've been going for an hour, as well as the stream has lagged so considerably that it's impossible for me to even react to you guys in real time, which is really unfortunate. So, but we will finish off here. We're talking about Thomas Aquinas. And Thomas Aquinas basically argued in a similar way to Kant, where he believes, excuse me, give me a second. I think I have like the hiccups or something. Apologies. Yeah, Brab moment. So apologies for the belching there, internal belching. Thomas Aquinas believes, similar to Kant, that God permits evil in order to set the stage for the redemptive story. Thomas Aquinas wrote a little bit about this. And so, of course, the greatest act of love, the greatest act of compassion, the greatest act of humility that we've ever seen, that's ever been manifested, is God, the King of the universe, this necessary, eternal being, taking upon himself the nature of man. Like I mentioned earlier, in the hypostatic union, humbling himself to become man, humbling himself to be killed by his very own people, to the people who he came to save. And he would be crucified by them, those who committed sin and were his enemies, his adversaries, people who turned his back against God. And so we see this God's brilliant mercy, his brilliant grace on full display for us. And it would only have been possible to really grasp this and see it through the redemption story. Frankly, I don't think there'd be any other way to just say, oh yeah, God is very merciful, God is very gracious, like we were living in the Garden of Eden. I don't think anyone would have been able to cognize that in a meaningful sense. And so the kind of God set the stage in a certain sense by allowing and permitting evil, knowing that it would happen so that he could save humanity, could redeem humanity, and ultimately bring all glory and honor back to himself. And that's where it deserves. God isn't insecure, as neckbeards want to think, and that's why he demands all worship. He is the king and author of everything. Everything is sustained because of he says so. At any one time, all principles of goodness come from the unmanifested ultimate principle of the Godhead. And so, of course, all honor and glory is due to him. And it's naturally where it must be directed. The same way a king, the serfs, the the constituency of a king or a ruler, that they should pay homage to their Lord, who looks out for them and protects them and has given them land on which to harvest crop. In the same way, and if there's some temporary and perfect leader that we give adoration to, for example, a lot of people look up to Donald Trump. We praise him for standing up for conservative values, America first, standing up to the establishment and the swamp, and being quintessentially an American patriot. In the same way that we kind of, we know that's the honor that Trump, is merited, and to some extent, like, it is infinitely times more so for God. And so part of the way that God has been able to direct praise and honor to himself is through the redemption story. And so in a real sense, and this is kind of cliche, but in a real sense it's true, God is the greatest novelist. He is the greatest novelist. He really did orient and align reality to match his vision for how things should be in the best possible way. And so that is kind of one of Thomas Aquinas's points that he makes. And then the second point that he made, and I was going to read a passage from the Summa Theologica on this, but I think we're running out of time, so I will spare you that this episode, because Aquinas, after all, is a little bit dense. But Aquinas basically also argues that evil acts as a natural blocker to committing greater acts of immorality. It is like as if a father who punishes his son for playing with matches prevents them from one day sticking their hand in a fire because they don't realize how potent flames can be and how dangerous they are to the human frailty. And so your earthly father, may punish you in that sense, may inflict upon you some pain through either emotional pain or grounding, or even if you're younger, you might have been spanked by your parents. Certainly that was a case with myself here. And I can recommend spanking. It seemed to work all right for me. So it whipped me into shape, quite literally whipped me into shape. But in the same way that that we're punished, so that to prevent some greater evil, it's for our own good. That God has created these natural punishments to direct us towards the moral good. And a great example is, pornography. It is always going to be wrong to look at pornography. It's always wrong to coom, to masturbate. All these things will always and indefinitely be wrong, regardless of whether or not it causes depression, anxiety, or any other of these physical effects. It will always still be immoral because it violates the natural law. But God has given us this natural pain of depression from looking at these type of things in order to encourage us not to do it. God has also, set it up so that people who are married are having the most happiest and most fulfilling sexual life. People who are married and haven't had sexual partners, had zero sexual partners, are less likely to get divorced. So you see these benefits that are material, and you also see these consequences that are again material. And they don't change whether or not the action is moral, regardless of what unorthodox theory wants to tell you, or Zeke and these other guys who are obsessed with studies. No, it's always going to be immoral, regardless of which study you want to use. It will always be the case that it's immoral. But God has provided these kind of natural incentives to push us in the right direction, as any heavenly father would. And God didn't have to do that. Like I've said earlier in the last stream, he could have just punished everyone since since our conception, since our birth, since we started turning our back against God, as the Bible says, for all have sinned. No one has sanctifying grace after the fall of man. So we all could have turned our backs against God, and we deserved his divine punishment. And instead, God has been so merciful as to provide us a means to salvation, as well as certain natural motivators to help us do the right thing. So everything in the end, I think, whether it be, whether or not you want to think it's the best possible world, or whether or not this is just a world where, all evil things kind of direct us towards some higher good, whether that be a belief in the existence of God, a belief in God's divine judgment, whether that be towards worship of God and adoration for his goodness and the redemption story, or whether that be as a kind of a natural punishment to keep us from doing a greater evil. In the end, it's kind of the same concept like I mentioned. It is that God always has our best interest in mind, and he is always going to proportion more mercy than judgment, as Thomas Aquinas wrote in the Summa Theologica. So thank you guys so much for watching. I know that it is lagging pretty badly. Thank you for the follow, Transzoomer Maximus. I apologize, like I said, for the lag. Please forgive me. And it will be uploaded to YouTube. So it looks like we just hit the hour mark. And so let me see preemptively if there's any questions, if I can think of any that you might ask. Because obviously, it's not in real time. I can't think of any at the moment. By the time you guys who are watching this in stream get to this point, it'll probably be like 30 minutes after I stop streaming. But in any case, I appreciate you guys watching who did stick with it. 40 people. We were at 78 at one time. If we hadn't been lagging, I bet we could have stayed around there. Hopefully. I don't know. Maybe not that many people interested in theology and philosophy. But next time I stream, I'll make sure that this doesn't happen again. So again, thank you guys for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions for me, save them for the next stream. I will try to stream before next week, Friday. So that to make up for what happened tonight. Again, I apologize. It's only so much I can do about this. This natural evil. Hopefully some greater good will come of it. In any case, I hope everyone has a great rest of your evening. I hope everyone is able to reflect on the solemnity for the Mary, the Mother of God. And as we end here, let's play Salve Regina before we end stream here. Alright, sounds good? Sounds like a good idea. So we'll just finish off with that. Make sure that if you are not following, you make sure you follow. Right, the button should be up there. There. Yeah, it should be up there. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel, because this will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. I'll upload it immediately, so that there's no delay for you guys who wanted to watch this tonight. And is there anything else I wanted to add here? Make sure you join the Discord if you want to support me monetarily. But at this point, I can't even advocate for that, because I feel like my quality of streams have gone down so much with this internet connection that I can't even. I really appreciate anyone who has donated. It's very generous of you guys. So yeah. In any case, appreciate you guys watching. Let me now play Salve Regina here. And I hope everyone has a great rest of your evenings.